My family ordered me to break up with a girl because of her reaction to a hard prank on her. For the past 2 years, I have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, Lola, and for the most part, everything has been going well. However, I've noticed that my brother, Ian, has been acting strangely whenever Lola is mentioned or around. Despite being very close and speaking to each other daily, our conversations always seem to shift whenever I bring up anything related to Lola. At first, I suspected that he might be feeling envious of the time I was spending with her or perhaps had a little crush on her. Nevertheless, whenever we would spend time together, he would make comments about our age gap, tease me for being overly attentive to her, and joke about her sleep disorder. Ian has always had a mischievous side and enjoys a good prank, whether he is the one pulling it off or on the receiving end. I genuinely believe that his intention is to share laughter when he pulls pranks. However, I have noticed that when it comes to Lola, his pranks tend to cross a line. He has deliberately triggered her sleep disorder by making sudden loud noises, attempting to startle her, and even planning to pull a shaving cream prank on her while she was taking a nap in the guest room. When I confronted him about this behavior and explained in detail how it could negatively impact Lola's regulated sleep cycles and mood, he seemed to understand, and I thought the matter was settled. A few days ago, I hosted a New Year's Eve party and extended an invitation to Ian and a group of friends that belonged to both myself and Lola. The atmosphere was lively, with everyone enjoying themselves. As the evening progressed, an alarm on my watch went off, reminding Lola to take a nap. She left the party with a drowsy smile, while I continued to entertain our guests. Suddenly, the sound of a scream echoed through the house, followed by the shattering of an object and a series of expletives. My heart raced as the commotion seemed to be coming from my room where Lola had been resting. I rushed over, nearly kicking the door down, only to find Lola forcefully pushing someone away and yelling at them. To my shock, I recognized the person as Ian, wearing a spider mask from years ago. He scrambled to escape, but it took 3 of Lola's friends to restrain her before she eventually collapsed in their arms. Meanwhile, Ian removed the mask and tearfully accused Lola of being insane and abusive. He claimed that he had only intended to wake her up in time for the New Year's countdown. The situation escalated as others at the party began to voice their opinions. Some of my friends expressed concern for my safety, arguing that if she could harm Ian, she might pose a threat to me as well. On the other hand, Lola's friends defended her actions, insisting that Ian should have known better than to disturb a sleeping girl and labeling his behavior as creepy. The heated exchange continued as Ian pleaded with me to recognize Lola's behavior as unacceptable and urged me to reconsider my relationship with her. Tensions rose, and emotions ran high as everyone present took sides and voiced their concerns about the incident. This unexpected turn of events left me grappling with conflicting emotions and the realization that there were deeper issues at play within our social circle. Ian called our mother to report that Lola had hurt him, and she was furious. Lola's friends carried her out, despite my protests, while my friends were divided on the matter. I vividly remember standing there as everyone argued while the ball dropped, my mother calling me repeatedly, and Lola finally texting me that she needed space to think. Since then, we have exchanged light text messages. She has expressed her fear of what happened, but has not shared her side of the story. Ian and my mom are pressuring me to break up with her, criticizing me for not standing up for my brother when he was being assaulted and demanding an apology for not fulfilling my role as an older brother. Ian has been FaceTiming other family members, and now our aunt, who has supported us financially, is driving 3 hours to check on us. This is causing me even more stress. On one hand, I feel obligated to stand up for my family, but on the other hand, I adore Lola and feel the need to protect her. Not talking to her is painful, and I don't want to push her boundaries. Ian insists that he was just playing a well-intentioned prank and was unfairly punished. I am unsure whether to believe him, but we have been close for 22 years. I don't want to doubt him just because I am in love. I am torn about how to approach the situation with Lola and how to convince my family that she is not a threat. She is genuinely sweet and caring, and I believe she was pushed to her breaking point. Update: 2 days later. In summary, despite many of you advising me to wait for Lola to share her side before confronting my family, they all unexpectedly showed up at my apartment yesterday morning while I was preparing a list of questions for them. I had asked them to postpone our meeting the night before, but they disregarded my request and arrived unannounced, leading to immediate conflict. Initially taken aback by their presence, I eventually matched their energy and confronted them about their enabling behavior towards Ian and their lack of support for me. As the argument escalated, my aunt accused me of disrespect, my mom cried, and my brother cursed at me. I pointed to my computer, where I was compiling comments from an online forum to form my questions, and expressed my disbelief in their victim-blaming attitude. My mom continued crying while I directed my aunt's attention to the screen, revealing that I had sought advice online. Ian then interrupted and questioned my right to share family matters on the internet. My aunt interjected, asking why Ian had not disclosed that he was alone with Lola and that she was asleep during the incident. Chaos ensued as my mom abruptly stopped crying and looked bewildered. Ian reiterated his skewed version of events, and I realized that he had misrepresented the situation to our family, painting himself as a victim and omitting key details. As I accused him of lying, he broke down in tears and accused me of fabricating the story to defend my girlfriend. My mom pleaded for us to stop, while my aunt continued scrolling through the online comments. The confrontation turned into a heated exchange of accusations and grievances between Ian and me, with my mom and aunt caught in the middle, as we recounted our versions of the events of that night and our long-standing conflicts. Regrettably, I had forgotten our location and failed to keep the volume down, and a while later, there was a knock at the door. Uncertain of the visitor, part of me hoped it might be Lola, although I knew it was unlikely. To my surprise, it was two officers responding to a noise complaint from one of our neighbors. Feeling foolish, I explained that no one was hurt and that we were merely engaged in a heated argument without any imminent danger. I allowed them to look around and speak with my mother and brother, but my aunt intervened when it seemed they were about to issue a warning. She motioned to Ian, who appeared anxious as he glanced between her and the officers. Despite her initial anger, my aunt directed her glare at Ian, stating that if someone is touched or hit without consent or a justifiable reason, it should be reported. She asked him if he had anything to say, prompting silence and uneasy glances around the room. Realizing that my aunt was calling him out, I stared at Ian, who looked as panicked as he did the other night when he was trying to escape from Lola. Sensing the tension, one of the officers inquired if everything was okay, and Ian began to sob uncontrollably. My mother asked him what was wrong while I urged her to stop coddling him, revealing that he had been lying to us. My aunt pressed him again if he had anything to report, pointing out that he had been confrontational with Lola earlier that day and questioning why he was now reluctant to speak up. After persistent prodding, he reluctantly admitted that he felt she wouldn't be rightfully prosecuted if he reported her. His subsequent account was more consistent with the version I was familiar with, in which he confessed to being aware that Lola was asleep and expressed his intention to startle her in order to wake her up. Although I still find it hard to believe his reason for wanting her awake. He admitted to putting on a mask, despite my questioning whether he knew about her phobia of masks, to which he responded that he knew she found them creepy. He also confirmed that there was no one else in the room with them, as he had been unable to convince any of our friends to participate in the prank, so he took it upon himself to carry it out. He described how he started making noises against the wall behind the bed and then approached Lola to scream in her face. According to him, she woke up and took him by surprise by not reacting with fear or panic, but by going for his throat instead. He detailed his account of the altercation, which prompted some of the officers to exchange glances before refocusing on him. At that point, I burst into the room. The door wasn't locked, but in my panic, I hadn't used the doorknob properly and just threw myself at the door. And this is where my involvement in the story began. I am certain that if the police hadn't been present, I would have physically confronted him. My mother cried even more when he mentioned that Lola was sleeping, a revelation that completely altered the course of his narrative. My aunt reprimanded him harshly, and everyone criticized him for his foolish and offensive behavior. The officers explained that if his account was accurate, Lola's actions could be interpreted as self-defense. They also pointed out that his behavior was immature and asked my mother for permission to further question him, expressing concern for his well-being and the safety of others. My aunt and I both pointed out that he was 22 years old and therefore an adult, so they did not require her permission to proceed. He looks much younger than his age. Upon learning his age, one of the officers sat down with him and encouraged him to talk through his thought process, while the other officer clarified to my mother and aunt that Lola could press charges based on Ian's account. My aunt still appeared furious, while my mother cried about being confused and upset about her child's actions. She looked at me and expressed disbelief at how her child could do such a thing. I had already realized that I was deeply entangled in the dysfunction of this family, but now I understood that I couldn't thrive in an environment that was toxic to me. If I wanted to truly recover and maintain my well-being, I needed to distance myself from this situation. My mother was on the phone, upset and emotional as she spoke with my aunt and another uncle about some family drama. Meanwhile, I reached out to a friend who lives across the city, asking if I could stay with him for a while. The situation at home had become overwhelming, and I needed some distance from the source of the problem to clear my head and think things through. In the midst of packing, my aunt saw me in my room but didn't stop me. She did ask if I had spoken to Lola about the situation yet, and I explained that I hadn't but intended to do so later. She also apologized for believing my brother's side of the story without considering other perspectives and expressed concern for Lola's well-being. After everyone left, including the police who had taken statements from my brother and me, I went to stay with my friend. My mother left with my brother, who was still upset and lashing out at me, while my aunt hugged me and apologized once again for her actions. She reassured me that I didn't owe her anything but expressed a desire to know that Lola was okay. I stayed at my friend's place until further notice. Though he couldn't make it to the party, he had heard about what happened from various people. As for Lola, I did meet with her yesterday. Despite my excitement to see her, I had been mentally preparing for the possibility of a breakup, as many people had warned me about it. Regardless of my relationship status, my priority was ensuring her safety and well-being. During our meeting, Lola brought a friend along, and we all had a conversation. I showed them a Reddit post related to the situation, and Lola asked me not to share any more information about her until she felt ready to do so herself. My girlfriend is an active Reddit user, often browsing for gaming and general content. She made it clear to me that if she stumbled upon this story without my prior explanation, she would have been quite upset. After reading through many of the comments expressing concern for her, she wanted me to convey to everyone that, despite feeling upset, hurt, and emotionally conflicted, she is doing okay overall. She wasn't pleased that I posted about her without giving her a heads up. However, when I offered to take the post down, she only requested that I give her space and refrain from involving her personal life and opinions in any further discussions beyond what I've already shared here, until she indicates otherwise. In summary, she did end our relationship. When I mentioned to her about the possibility of pressing charges, her friend informed me that they were well aware of this option. She is grateful for everyone's concern and expressed her hope that both of us can learn from this situation. This section was approved by her. So, unless I'm forgetting something, that's all the information I can provide at this time. My mother has been calling and texting me, expressing how this entire situation has left Ian and her extremely distressed, and she can't believe I would let a girl do this to us. I blocked my brother right after he left my apartment, and I also blocked my ex-girlfriend. My aunt has informed me that she will speak with her, but I am unsure how that conversation will unfold. I understand that this outcome isn't what everyone wants, but it's not what I want either. To those who have nothing but negative things to say about me, I understand. I've been an awful person. I appreciate all the advice that has been given to me. I'm going to take a break not only from the chaos in my life, but also from Reddit. I know I have a lot of growing to do, and I can't achieve that in this environment. Who do you think is right in this situation? Write about it in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers together. Love you.